Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are honored to welcome a remarkable guest, Crystal Gallo, the founder and CEO of Innerhive. Welcome, Crystal. How are you?
Good. How's it going, Lance?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get started, I described you as the founder and CEO of Innerhive. What is Innerhive? How do you explain or, share that with people when they ask you?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like a visual can tell 1,000 stories. And so we really centered on eco mapping to kind of visualize your support network. And it's really about having a place that is central to organize all that care information, but more specifically, to be able to share that out with your community and stay connected. So we recognize how important it is to have communication and how your support network continues to grow. And we really want to be that connective tissue.
And so this it sounds like it could be a really good, platform for companies or organizations, but Innerhive, it's really not geared towards them though, right? It's geared more towards families who might be trying to support a loved one and everybody being on the same page, or is that right? Or
It hits both. So we're very much geared towards caregivers. Family caregivers are our core audience. So we recognize that a lot of caregivers have expressed the desire to be able to have the opportunity to get care at home, but they've certainly expressed there comes a lot of coordination and complexity. And so this is intended to make that job easier, to really bridge between the family and their support network. Now, there's a lot of opportunity for organizations as well, because there are organizations out there. They're doing great work and partnering with families. And so they're there to serve them on the social service front, or, a care manager or care navigator, some capacity, fiduciary. So we've got organizations that are also using our platform because those individuals are also there advocating for the family.
okay, sure. That makes total sense. What was it though that really got you involved in the caregiving space, or that led you to feel like you wanted to help support family caregivers? Is there an experience or a story that goes along with that?
Yeah, I feel like most great things come from personal pain. I think most families kind of went through the pandemic, and to some capacity, we all learned something, and there was unexpected change there. For myself and my family, this was a journey that we never imagined. I didn't imagine getting into caregiving, certainly not in this decade, and had gotten a call, and we're in California. I've still got family back on the East Coast. And so when we had gotten that call, there was an accident. And then, of course, in most crisis situations, you've got a short period of time to kind of figure out, what do we do? And, my grandmother, I had the opportunity of growing up in a multi-generational home. And so when we got the call from my grandmother, it felt very easy to figure out, yes, okay, we can jump in, we can help. But when we learned that it would require 24/7 care, and she was already there helping my uncle, who was navigating cancer. So we knew that there was a contingency. We knew that those two were working closely together, and he needed her. And so now with the care that she needed after the dementia diagnosis, it was a scramble. I mean, like most people, you don't know what to do. You're given limited information, and you do the best that you can with what you know. And so we couldn't kind of uproot and move back east. So we moved them across country. And when we moved them in, like I said, it feels very easy to say yes and to know that you want to help and you want to give. And family's been there to kind of raise and give and nourish and provide love for you. And so that wasn't the difficult part. It was when you've got two conditions that are progressing at very different speeds. It's really hard. It's hard to be able to provide support and care and love, and hard to do that from a family perspective, but also as you transition to a caregiver, because you're often thinking about, what do I need to do? How can I get them through the day? Are they safe? And you kind of lose a little that softer relationship side. And so it was about a year into that, I found myself struggling, and I used to retreat to my closet. That was my place of respite. So after that experience, I realized if I was going through that, and I felt like I used to vibrate high, and I could kind of handle a lot of complexity. What was everyone else going through?
Right.
So kind of jumped in and spent a couple months and just talked to as many families as I could to learn. I wanted to understand, what was their challenge, what was their pain, how do I take my experience, learn more about their experience, smash them together, remove the bias, and figure out what would a good solution look like. Where do we start? Because the whole system is broken. There's a lot of opportunity, and we certainly can't solve it all at once. So I had to really look hard to figure out where's the best starting place.
What
So,
for you and your
mhm.
family, Crystal, what was the best starting place? Like what was the number one thing that you guys really needed the support with?
Oh my gosh, to try to prioritize. It's so funny. I'm always asking others, I'm like, how would you prioritize and rank these? And I struggle with it.
Right.
So I think community, having to uproot them from their community and bring them out here. And it's really, really difficult to try to get your community, when I say you're the caregiver, to understand what you're going through, because unless someone's been in it, you can try to articulate it 20 different ways, but it never really sits. Like it is really, really difficult to build and show, the situation, to build empathy. And so I think we really struggled with trying to find community to help us to step in. A lot of times that community will also be the community of people that are there to provide encouragement. They're there to give tips, to pick you up when you need it. And that was really difficult for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It is challenging. So how long was your caregiving journey for your
A couple
situation?
years.
Couple years. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the genesis then with Innerhive? How was that born?
Yeah. So I think just going through that experience really opened my eyes. And at that time, I had just started another company, and we were only a couple of months in. And as I had said, historically, I've been able to kind of handle high degree of chaos. And I was really struggling to figure out how much of my struggle, my pain, the fact that I felt like I was falling apart, how much of that do I let expose to my family, to my friends, to my team? And we had some really meaningful conversation. And when I realized that this was a problem to be solved, there were others on the team that had brought forth their experiences. And it really actually opened up the door to conversation that otherwise wouldn't have happened. And so in those discussions, we were able to kind of centralize and say, okay, what would this look like?
Mhm.
And it was really born out of just the need and being able to resonate and connect with families, being able to have others on the team who felt this as well. And, they had family that they were able to care for or had medical complexity. And I think everyone's journey is different, but I do think the way that we handle it, some of the tools that you use to make your life easier, to manage it, to advocate for your wellness, to advocate for the wellness of those you care for. I think in many regards, a lot of that's conceptually the same. So that's kind of why Innerhive was born. We really wanted to provide a place to organize all your care information, to visualize your network. As I said, a picture tells 1,000 words. And so when you can see your support network all in one place, and then that's the trusted and transparent spot to be able to communicate with each other, it makes that community bonding tighter. As your community grows, as your needs grow, as your support network grows, it's just your point of truth. And so that was really important for us. I wanted to make sure that the burnout I felt and what I was hearing and witnessing from other families, that we could do good and we could create change to end that burnout. So we just want to transform the caregiving journey.
Wonderful. Crystal, before you became a family caregiver and the founder and CEO of Innerhive, what was your background? Were you in business or what?
Yeah, I'm a tech baby. So I kind of grew up in tech, software development's where I've lived. I've tried on multiple different hats. Before this, I was running an organization that was actually linguistically driven. We went through an acquisition, and it was an organization that was centered around providing support and holistic solutions for education. So when you think of K-12, higher ed, it was really looking at how people communicate and looking for patterns so that you can prevent incidents from happening. So you hear about a lot of these harm incidents from bullying or
Sure.
kids that maybe struggle with depression or anxiety. And we were trying to understand the language and the behavior patterns to try to prevent those incidents so harm didn't happen to themselves or to others. So I did that, and then I've kind of dabbled I was in auto for a while, leading product and technology teams, and sat in the telecom and then also the events and entertainment space. So many different industries. I think the common denominator is I really love solving problems. And if I can use technology to solve those problems, that's going to be kind of my first order of how am I going to do this?
So a lot of, as you're describing, like for the, K through 8 and, high school and higher ed and things, it sounds very not too dissimilar to what you're trying to do for family caregivers, right? I mean, you're trying to avoid situations, improve situations, and open up communication and really kind of zero in on situations that might be pain points for family caregivers, except it's not education now, it's family caregiving. Is that kind of fair?
I mean, if you zoom out maybe another degree at the conceptual level,
Yeah.
both are very much focused on how can we be proactive? How
Yeah.
can we pull ourselves out of this reactive space, get into a place where we're providing the support and the resources in the community to proactively prevent situations or to plan for the future. So yeah, certainly at that level, I think there's some crossover for sure.
Yeah. Why don't you go and share with our viewers and our listeners how exactly how exactly Innerhive can help family caregivers and their loved ones. What can it do for the families?
Yeah, let me this might be a little easier to walk through. We'll kind of let this roll and then stop and chat about it for a minute.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of talked about this when you were asking about my journey. A lot of people kind of sit in this crisis mode, and it was really important for us to help families transition from that crisis to active care management. But before you can even get into that, a lot of times, when you're in a situation, the first thing you think about is what is the critical information that I need right now? I can only think about today. I can't think about tomorrow, definitely not the week or the month. And so we wanted to make it really easy. When you come into the app, you go to a care profile. We want to know who is this individual, who is Arthur, who is the care recipient, what's the diagnosis and the allergens, what does it look like for an emergency plan so that if you're away, if something happens, we know exactly what to do, who to contact. It's really important to have a baseline. So what is a day in the life of? When you're thinking about a care plan, you want to understand and you want to be able to look for anomalies or exceptions. And so understanding what that care routine is day after day so you can be prepared and informed, that was really important. So this is kind of our place to capture that. And it makes it really easy so that if you want to, easily upload documents, if you want to put share plans in there, or care plans, sorry, and emergency plans, any sort of critical information you can kind of capture in here. So this was the first order. It's like, okay, let's get the most important information. And then from there, we really want to connect you up with community. And so community is very much about, we want to make it easy. We want it to be frictionless. We want you to pull your community in. We want you to be able to invite them. It's important to stay connected. We had a lot of families say, I have information overload. I'm having to manage this text and this Facebook and this chat and this thread. And like, can we all just drop an update in one place and we can all go there? And
Right.
that's what this is intended to do. So you'll notice we have a community page here. This is specifically where caregivers and their families can post updates. You can ask for help. You can receive encouragement. You can get some sort of emotional support. Really, it just makes it easy to see like how many supporters do I have? What does that look like in terms of what information I want to put out and how are they responding to it? So it's just really important to stay connected to community. Back to the question you had said, where do we struggle the most? And I think it was the community piece.
When you talk
So
about supporters, Crystal, I mean support when you're a family caregiver is really priceless. I mean you can't put a
yeah,
value on that as a user. And now for our listeners who aren't watching this right now, I recommend they come and check out the video because you're going through a really impressive demo, if you will, or explanatory video of Innerhive and like the interface. Are these supporters, is it kind of like our traditional social media in the sense that like I could come follow you even though I don't have any geographical, connection to you? Or can you set parameters? Like I only want supporters within a 50-mile radius, or I'm sure there's
yep,
like
the
security.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question. The family, this is very much the family lens. So we want them to be able to say, here's who I want to share it with. So while it's maybe not distance oriented, it is very much the opportunity if you want to send off an invite, if you want to say, hey, come keep current and here's where we're going to do it. You can use discretion. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be, professionals that are supporting you. It could be, we've had a number of people that really it resonates. They have movement groups, they have religious groups and those communities have layers. And so they use this as an opportunity to bring them in the fold because a lot of times we build community and community wants to help, but they don't know how to help, or they're maybe not current. And it's a really big mental load on the caregiver to always have to be, resharing the story, trying to explain where they're at. It is so difficult. There's nothing worse than feeling like you need to, someone asks you a question and it's like, how are you doing? But do you really want to know the answer? And I don't really want to have to explain it. This is so easy. Caregiver can say, this is kind of where I need help, or here's the update. Here's how Arthur's day went. And it just makes it easy. It removes a little bit of that mental load. Put it out there. You've got your supporters. People can opt in. I've got you. They can share encouragement. They can react. It's really meant to try to just bring that communication in. And like you said, our communities, they want to help. I really do believe people have good intention, and sometimes they just need a little guidance, and they need to understand a little bit more about the situation so they know how they can help.
Oh, that's tremendous. Now I know we'll have links in the show notes. We'll put it up on the screen. I know it's available at the Google Play Store and the App Store for Apple. What about desktop? Is it desktop friendly as well?
It sure is. Yep. You can absolutely go to our website, so www.innerhive.com, and you can access a desktop version there. So if people prefer to work in that space, it is available for them.
That's wonderful. Let's talk about, you kind of went through this, but Innerhive really does encourage community and it encourages that much needed support. But talk about how it does encourage the community.
Yeah, so I mean, just being able to, like I said, a lot of times you don't know what community is out there, you don't know what you need, you have a hard time kind of communicating with people. And so many times, if you can just get a slice of the community engaged, it has a ripple effect. So if you can get this out there and you can stay connected to maybe your inner hive, right? Then you've got that next layer. And so they each continue to show up. And when you make it easy to communicate with each other, and when you make it easy to visualize your support network, you understand who is everyone, what are they doing, how are they helping. It becomes much easier to really understand the picture. And maybe what I'll do is I'll just jump ahead to there
Yeah.
right now. On this support front here, what we also do is obviously as care changes, and as people are looking for questions and they're looking for support groups, we do have a resource center. So we have a place where you can look for podcasts, books, education, services, and then most importantly, community groups. And so this is really much, again, to help you from anywhere from crisis mode to active care planning to end of life to grief,
Yeah.
to planning for the future. And so it's just really easy to go in and see like, okay, what does this look like? Who can I tap into? What's out there? But I think what you were getting at is when you think of community, like I had said, so many people are like, I don't remember. I remember these few people. This is who we call in an emergency, but I don't know who else is out there. I don't know who else can help. I'm not sure how to get their help. I can't even process it. And so this right here, this was the power of Innerhive. We wanted to visualize the network. We wanted to make it so easy at one glance. You can look and go, okay, here's everyone in our support network. I got it. It's dynamic as it grows, as you add specialists, as you add movement groups, whatever it may be, people in your community, you can capture it here. And
Mm.
because you capture it here, you can easily invite them. You can bring them into the fold. They can stay current. You can communicate in here. It's a really easy place to be able to capture everything. It's kind of your one-stop shop, if you will. We used eco mapping, as you can see, or in business mind mapping. That's kind of what paints the picture. It builds empathy. Immediately, you can see the situation. And so you don't have to process large, calibers of text. You've got contextual information in here, so you understand Arthur, you understand his needs, you understand the household that's supporting him. You've got all of the information around that's pertinent care information, critical documents. It's all at your fingertips. So very easy to access on the go.
That's incredible. So you're the founder. I'm imagining you're probably a big part of the development team as well. What for you, Crystal? What is your goal with Innerhive? And I don't mean it. The standard answer that I would assume you'd say is every caregiver's using it and it's helped making their life easier. But what is what's your target? What's your milestone where you're like, okay, you know what? I've taken this conceptual idea and now it's created and now I'm at this phase. What's the end goal where you're going to say, you know what, Innerhive has done what I wanted it to do?
Oh, if I can be really lofty, I don't think we're ever going to satisfy. You can't, we're not bacon or we're not mac and cheese or whatever the reference is. We can't be liked by everyone.
Right.
So certainly I'm not aiming to do that. But when I think about the care economy, when I think about our system as a whole, we are one small sliver. And so in my mind, if Innerhive can be part of that cumulative spider web of so many other phenomenal leaders and advocates and organizations, if we can collectively change the entire paradigm of how our organization and our leadership in our country thinks, I think that's powerful. Like that's success to me. We don't need to be in every household. We don't need to be with every caregiver. If we can impact just a small number of lives, but more importantly, if we can actually form relationships and bond together with other people, I really, really believe that the power of coming together with other like-minded folks to create a much, much bigger systemic change, that's where the sweet spot is. So getting from this reactive nation to this proactive nation, being able to actually be a caregiver and feel proud about it, showing up at work and being okay talking about it and not, afraid of your job being at risk or what people will think. Having a place to communicate where you feel like it's trusted, it's your information, it's transparent. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to try to decipher what's happening in these medical files. This is my life, my story. I get to control my quality of life. This is not dictated by some sort of quantifiable data. Like those are all points of success for me. That's powerful.
How long has Innerhive been available for public consumption? Not terribly long,
Yeah.
right?
No, we're a youthful organization. So we launched the beginning of this year. So January of this year. So we're actually coming up on, it's wild to think that we're almost through a year. But yeah, beginning of 2025 will mark 1 year.
What what's been one of the hardest pain points for you as the founder of Innerhive?
Uh, I I can handle a lot of stress. I learned in my family experience that I have a much lower threshold for emotional stress.
Mm.
And so when we first launched, this was uh, really difficult for me to talk about with anyone. Um, I would actually collaborate with my team because they were in a better place to help kind of articulate the story so that I could make sure that I was composed. So I think my hardest challenge has been learning that it's okay to be a mess, learning that it's okay to be emotional because I never brought any of that into my work before.
Sure.
So that's very new learning personally for me. In terms of from a business perspective, my hardest challenge is I absolutely suck at boundaries. It's been something I've had to work on my whole life. Probably always will be working on it. I've got this overachiever, ambitious, want to help, want to do, want to learn, want to, go, go, go. And so sometimes I feel as though when I'm doing that, I forget to appreciate the small milestones, like you had said, or I forget to take a step back and give myself some grace, or really, I get so excited and so focused. It's intense, and I forget about a lot of other things in life. So I'm constantly having to remind myself that it's much more than this, but it's just my passion that's taken over, and so I'm having to check myself a lot. That's really hard when you're early on in a business that you're passionate about and you want to share it with others and you want to learn and keep iterating to make it better.
I think that's so well said. That's not too dissimilar to like our story. You know, we own a home care company, and it came as a result of being a caregiver for my father, right? I was going to medical school, then we get a call. He needs to either come live with us for a while he recovers, or he needs to go into rehab. And we obviously chose to have him come live with us, which we were fortunate that we could do that. But the thing for me, Crystal, was we never were offered the resources and support, right? Going through that whole journey. And that's kind of been like my little eternal flame is I want families to know about the resources and information. You know, COVID strikes. I mean, this is many years later. We're 7, 8 years into our company at this point. My father had since passed, and we were going all over Michigan doing educational talks, helping with resources, but doing fun activities and oldies concerts and Elvis impersonators just to, brighten their day and give them a smile. And that all, we made a decision before our governor to stop because we were concerned about the public gathering. And it was only days later that the governor, put us on lockdown. So our company continued to operate because we're essential. But all of that fun extracurricular stuff, the stuff that I really, enjoyed doing, that even if we wanted to, that stopped. So where I'm going with this is, like your story with Innerhive and my story with our home care company, and now as a result in an extension, All Home Care Matters, we are using this as a personal, it's almost a personal mission, at least for me, where it's a great way because every day I get up, go to work, or, write an article or do the podcast. I'm not dreading it, right? I'm doing it because there's a purpose behind it, which I think really helps in so many ways, because you haven't lost sight of the reason why. Like, that's my why. And when you have that, I think it makes a big difference versus just going to an office building or, doing your normal job because you're doing it because you need an income. And you probably hopefully like your job, but it's a lot different when you have that personal connection. I think that helps to elevate it to another level. So I get what you're saying, right? And so now the Innerhive's been out about 10 and a half months or so at the time of this recording. What's been some of the feedback that's really stuck out to you from users or, people you've shared it with? Like, do you have any of those stories or anecdotes that once it got out there and maybe one of the first people that used it or somebody you shared it with, and it kind of almost it gave you affirmation, like, okay, you know what, this is so much needed. It's not just something I thought, but society thinks this is needed too, or somebody you admired and respect agreed with you.
Yeah, it's wild. To go back to your point, and then I'll answer that, but to go back
Yeah.
to your point of this being very much a deep-rooted passion, I've worked in organizations that were public, private, small, large, PEVC backed. The last one before we sold that was a smaller one. The one before that, I mean, we had 35, 40,000 people. And so I've always appreciated learning. I've never felt this caliber of connection to anything. And maybe that's what's maybe a little more crazy. Maybe that's part of the intensity and the challenge of boundaries even more. But it does feel good to show up and learn and to contribute to something that you felt so much pain for. Like it's very different. I haven't even found a really easy way of articulating it because, I've had people ask and people have expressed how crazy it is to jump verticals or go stay and, stay over here. And every company I've been part of is a fast growing one. So every single company has exited. And when you're in the wellness organization and when you're working with families, this is not something to be pushed. Like, you can't move fast. People take time. We're dealing with emotions. We're dealing with people, not just like a lot of times with technology, people forget, oh, you can solve it with technology. And I believe many things can benefit from technology, but in this realm, technology plus people, that service industry, that's the power. It's exactly why I feel like what we lacked for my family experience was community. I mean, you can find resources, so much value from community, and people focus so many times on these are all the skills that were lost. But if you just remember all the skills that are still there, and when you talk about, humor or laughter or engaging in arts, or those small things change someone's day completely. And so when we launched this back in the beginning of the year, and I was kind of figuring out how can I articulate, how can I share this with and still keep composure, that was a real challenge. So I used to kind of like quickly graze over why this was meaningful, my story. I wanted to learn. And I was at one of my first presentations and I kind of shared, this is what we're focused on. We want to learn. Don't be shy about feedback. We know everyone's journey is kind of unique, but we want to be there to really fuse it. We want to be the solution to help you advocate for your wellness. And after that presentation, I was super nervous. I had a gentleman come up to me and I was like, oh, okay, what's going to be the point of curiosity here? And he stood there and it was like a really long pause, kind of awkward, wasn't sure what to do. And then he just stepped forward and hugged me and started crying.
Wow.
He had such a powerful movement because the story resonated and he was like, I think I need to be here today because we just had this situation with my family. I don't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. I wasn't going to come. I'm so overwhelmed. And then to hear this, he's like, this makes me feel like I'm not alone. This makes me realize like this is happening out there to other people. So that was powerful. And
That's,
then, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I tell people all the time, my number one thing, aside from a person's safety and well-being, the number one issue for family caregivers so often, and I think is the most critical, is them knowing that there's others out there, that they're not alone, that they have support. And it's so isolating when you're going through it oftentimes that you don't have the ability to go look and find resources because your main focus is on your loved one, because it's emotional, it's physical, it's mental. It touches on every aspect of your life. If it's a spouse, a child, a parent, I mean, it's difficult, and you do end up feeling alone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It was just ironic because I was concerned about keep it together, Crystal. And then after I was like, oh no, it's like the floodgates were open. I was trying so hard, but it was so powerful, and so sweet that there were no words in the beginning. It was just kind of like he was struggling to figure out what to say, and it just meant that much. And so still in touch with him to this day.
Are you? Wow.
I am. He's part of the community. He's part of my community. So I've had the opportunity here to be able to connect with others and to share where I can. And so that was powerful. I had another situation where a family, we have a lot of sandwich generation. So they are parents that are caring for their children, in many cases with medical complexity or mental health seems to be on the rise. And then they're also caring for their parents. And so they're trying to juggle and figure that out. And I had one woman who had come up and we were chatting, and she had said, hey, I don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated. I feel awful. I get so snappy. I just don't have time. My one slice of respite is this day activity program. And as it is, my mom doesn't even want to go. Like I've got to convince her. She needs to understand and see that she's making friends. But we had a situation recently where she fell. She ended up having to get surgery. She got stitches. I was just rushing and I was like, I just need to get her to aquatics class. And she dropped her off, totally forgot to mention that she had surgery and stitches and wasn't supposed to get in the water. Got in the water, got an infection. It snowballed, had to go back in, antibiotics, another visit to the hospital. You always regress. There's always some sort of emotional or traumatic experience. And then that kind of snowballed. They had a couple of other incidents. And so she was telling me this story and she's like, I feel like I'm failing. I'm just so burnt out. I know I've got people that are willing to help and I've tried, but I can't keep putting a front on. They don't get it. This isn't going away. Her mom had dementia, Alzheimer's. And so it's not something where you have surgery and it heals, or it's not, just as families that have children with medical complexity, these are things that you live with and you have to learn to adjust. And so in that case, she's like, I don't know, how am I supposed to, they're not talking to each other. How can I keep track of this? How can I make sure that that doesn't happen? Like, I'm gonna lose my mind. So that was that story, among a few other conversations I had with families, was very much the inspiration behind how can we have a community page? How can we have a space where you can just say, hey, here's what went on, and you can push it to everyone in your support network. So you've got your aquatics teacher, you've got your surgeon and your, naturopathic doctor, and maybe your primary, and you've got your family and you can all see it and you understand and you're informed and you can prevent those situations so you're not regressing, or, in some cases, it also illuminates gaps in care. So it's kind of a win-win there. But yeah, I've never associated it as an external. In my entire career, I've always been back end. I've been, behind the scenes leading, if you will. I'm not the front facing business development, sales, marketing type of individual. And that was really difficult for me with Innerhive, to have to learn and get comfortable with those skills because I'm more analytical and technical.
Yeah.
But what I really cherished is I've never met so many people that have been so passionate and supportive and have come into this because of something meaningful, like you shared about your family, or a situation that others were in. And they're like, I want to contribute in some capacity, however I can, to change this for others. And so it's been a really supportive group of people. It's been super fun to get to learn and hear, and no one has been shy. Everyone has been very generous with saying, here's where I'm struggling, or here's what I need help with, or even if they don't say it so directly,
Right.
they express it. You can feel it. You can see it. There's some sort of communication that you're like, okay, I get this.
So I see right now, like the slide up on the screen says ditch the binder. I can fully relate to that. Our staff do digital and paper, but I'm talking more of the family caregiver. When they're going to an appointment or whatever the case may be, usually they're going to have a big binder or a bag or a backpack of all their mother or father or loved ones' things. What does ditch the binder mean? Because that could be very appealing to a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, yeah. I know for us, and I know what I've heard with others, you have situations, ambulatory emergency situations, and a lot of times you're scrambling and you're like, I don't know, when was the last time, or what meds are they on, or who do you call, or And you're always looking, is it on the fridge? Is it in the binder? Where is it? I don't have it. Or if you're across country. So this was our effort of, once you know who's in your support network and you have an understanding of who, what kind of, who's involved, the places, people, we just need a place. Where can you capture notes? Where can you organize care information and preferences? And where can you upload documents? So this is very much that place, so that it's easy to access, it's easy to upload. You can organize all the associated plans, images, videos, but it's really just to create a sense of order. So that's very much what the ditch the binder was. And then obviously you'll see in a minute, the next thing is all this informational overload is coming from every direction and it's hitting me like just one spot. Give me one spot to go. The next piece is time. Everyone's like, I can't keep up with time and appointments. And so we made it easy to have a roll-up view of all the appointments in one spot that are then organized under the respective hive. You've got the chance to kind of sync up with your calendar to make it really easy to integrate and just keep track of what's happening this week and what's happening beyond. And as you see here, this kind of goes back to your point earlier of how do you get the community involved? What does that look like? And a lot of people share caregiving. Sometimes they share it with family, sometimes they share it with someone in their community, sometimes a paid professional comes in. So we wanted to make it really easy to add a co-owner. Basically, you can put in their email address, they get notified, they understand that they've been identified as someone important to Arthur's Innerhive, and they can jump in. And so co-owners are typically people that are trusted by the care recipient and by the caregiver, and they have full access to be able to add, edit, remove. And so this was just a really easy way to how can we get multiple people in there collaborating. And then obviously once you're past the active care, something that we talked about is that proactive paradigm. So how do we plan for the future? You move from crisis and you kind of get to the current day. Once you're out of that and you're transitioning, most people are in a space where they can start to think about, okay, how do I protect and honor the care recipient? So how do I protect and honor Arthur, my dad, his quality of life and his legacy? A lot of times it starts with estate planning, and then you've got advanced care planning, and eventually it'll lead to kind of legacy planning. And so we provide just a step-by-step checklist, make it easy to walk people through so that they can see each planning phase. You can, it's dynamic. So as you make progress, you can see that progress. You can check things off. You can upload documents. We just recognize it's really valuable that people want guidance on where to focus attention. And so we made it easy. We even included some educational articles so that as you're going through and maybe you don't know what care estate planning is or advanced care planning is, we give that overview. So, as you're making progress, you feel confident that you're informed and you're making good decisions, because a lot of caregivers have said, I'm so overwhelmed. It comes at me from every angle.
Right.
I need the noise just removed. Just please give me guidance on what to do next, what it means, how it's going to impact. So I feel good about the decisions because it's a lot of pressure on caregivers. You're proxying, you have an advocate for, and so you want to be informed. So perfect. Mentioning pressure. This is kind of the caregiver wellness. So you've got your community, you've worked through the critical kind of information, you've got access to the support and the resources. Then you've got everything in such an organized view. It becomes, okay, that's made my life a little easier. It's made it a little more efficient, but it doesn't mean that I'm still not emotionally stressed. And so this just starts to get at that. There's still so much opportunity here, but we recognize we had a lot of caregivers say, yeah, I can go to these support groups, but I'm not ready to put it all out there. And I'm like, well, you don't need to. You can find a place to reflect and to journal elsewhere. Maybe you can just go to the support group and find community because they can help. Or maybe they've got tips, or, be open-minded to what that looks like. But a lot of caregivers that said, this is my personal space, my emotional journey, my reflection, my thoughts. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to expose it. So we wanted this to be a place where you can kind of capture, your sentiment, see the trend over time. You can log how you're feeling. You can log and see what's happening in life, the care events you spent your time on. You can even choose from existing templates if you want that will prompt you to think about very specific things. So this is very much for the caregiver. So yeah, that's kind of Innerhive in a nutshell. I mean, I think lastly, what I'll say is I hope people will feel compelled to check it out and go to the Google Play or App Store, download it, go to the browser, whatever their jam is. If there's something that's missing, if there's something that they want to see that they like, don't like, we want to hear about it. So reach out to us.
Sure.
That's really important. But really, it's just the point of truth. It makes it really easy to connect your network and get it all in one spot.
Well, a couple of things before we close up here, Crystal. First, thank you so much for bringing this resource to the community and to caregivers, because I think this is incredible for our listeners who weren't able to watch this. Go and watch, because it's going through a good portion of the app, and it's very, very impressive with how detailed and you really drilled down into it. It's not just superficial, stuff like a lot of apps that are out there today. Before we close, though, I just got a couple other questions. You just mentioned it, but say again how people can access Innerhive.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to Google Play. You can go to the App Store. The app is downloadable in both. It's Innerhive. You can also go to our website, www.innerhive.com. You can access the browser version there. We've got quick little links to download to the App Store too. So that's the easiest way. And then, certainly if you have any questions when you're on our website, there's a little chat bubble. If you want to email us, it's just hello@innerhive.com. Always here, always want to hear feedback. Definitely looking to learn. There's a lot of opportunities, so let it all fly.
Yes, absolutely. And is there, what is it, free to download? Is there a cost involved? Would you mind sharing that?
Of course, yeah, it is free to download. So the base version is free. Anyone that wants to go through, kind of capture the critical information, invite their community, keep the updates going, visualize their support network, all that's free. If you want to get into some of the richer features, so if it becomes really important to manage your time and sync up to your calendar, that would be part of a paid feature. If you want to have multiple co-owners, so people that you're kind of managing the caregiving load with, that would be a paid feature. For a lot of sandwich generation individuals, they're building and having Innerhive for their children, and then they're also having it for their parents. So multiple care maps, multiple individuals in there, that would also be a paid feature. And then, of course, because it is a document center, a lot of people will use this to kind of upload their critical information. So when you get beyond a certain number of documents, 10, that becomes part of a paid feature. So it is free to use. It is accessible. You can get in there. You can start to capture your critical information, connect with your community, most importantly, build your care map to advocate. And then the richer features are kind of for those users that are family members, caregivers that really want to dive in deeper. That would be a $5 a month or a $50 a year charge.
Wonderful. And full disclosure, we're going to be announcing it officially a little later, but I'm also a brand ambassador for Innerhive, just to have transparency there. So we're going to be doing a lot of work with you guys. We're excited. People that, know the show, know me. They understand I don't just, do things to do them. I either believe in it or I won't be a part of it. And I've got nothing but great things to say about Innerhive, and Crystal, you as well. Great people. It's a great resource. And I firmly believe you can never have too many resources when you're a caregiver. And, this one seems to kind of take all of the resources you need and puts it in one spot. So I highly, highly recommend it. And they're welcome to reach out to us as well. And is there, do you get the hello emails, or if people wanted to talk to you or give you suggestions? I'm sure you're always looking for ways to improve and add on. How would they reach out to you? The same way, the hello@innerhive.com, or?
Yep, I get the hello@innerhive.com. You can also reach out to me direct, Crystal, so Crystal @innerhive.com. So either routes to me. So you're gonna get me either way, but certainly whatever's easiest and works for you. Hello is very much kind of the broader capture in terms of anything funnels to that. So.
All right. Any last words, Crystal, before we go?
No, this is awesome. I'm just really grateful. Thank you for kind of giving a channel to share the story, to connect with others. I hope that someone somewhere out there, this really resonates. It touches. If you asked me earlier, what would success look like? It's not everyone. It's just give me a few people that really believe, really feel it, can really be helped. And then I know with time and people coming together, I know I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my body. We are on the cusp of something great. And once we as a country can figure out how to turn this ship around, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be a powerful, powerful decade. So thank you, Lance. This was really great.
Our pleasure, Crystal. Crystal Gallo, the founder and CEO of Innerhive, thank you so much. And I know we'll be talking again in the future. Have a great day.
Yeah, for sure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Crystal Gallo for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.